Yeah, I'm back. Anybody notice anything different? Anyway, cognition and trauma healing. Some of the ways. Now, my website has a page on it, and that page is called definitions. So I'm going to go there. You won't be able to see this. Definitions of resilience facets. And I also have a few other things. I've got a definition for love in there. I'm working on a definition of power, which is interesting because I kind of came by this organically this morning about what power is. And but there I'll have these definitions I operate from in a sense, and one of them is cognition. One thing and I don't know if it's quite clear on there. And that is about awareness. So cognitive resilience is anyway, I won't read you this because I posted this stuff elsewhere, and you can go to the website and read this. One thing about cognition is that there's an element of awareness here. This is very different than IQ. Very, very different. And you'll see how in the definition that I posit here on my website. And if you look up in the dictionary, it adds this element of awareness. So there's things like asking questions and not assuming things and understanding that a metaphor is only accurate to reality at a point. The minute you begin to flatten the metaphor to meet reality at more than one point, you are abusing language. Things like that. It's about the blood flow, man. That's true. Here's why. In the stress response, I was almost going to point to an image here, but it's not that image. In the stress response, the body shunts blood where it needs to be. Where do you think it takes it from? Specifically, there is I don't want to call it a pathology. They call it hypofrontality, and that means that the frontal part of the brain is low on blood, which could be an indicator, and I don't think medical science goes there yet. But what that means is that when your body goes into the stress response, it needs blood where? When it goes into fight or flight, it wants blood to do two things. What do you think those are? Fighting, my legs, you can't see that, and fleeing, which would be my legs primarily. Now, if you need to flee and then go up a tree or scale a rock or something like that, that's going to be blood here and there, and it's going to be blood to your lungs, blood to your heart's going to be. So that's where the blood goes to. It goes to those things that are needed for survival and takes it from areas that are not necessary for survival. It takes real training for that to be the opposite. And by opposite, I mean, even if I'm trying to defend my own life, my eyes are going to want to do certain things autonomically. The pupils will get smaller, dilate, the tunnel vision comes in. So that means I need to, be watching my six otherwise. But that's what training does. Training, with your auditory system changes under a threat circumstance, and I need to live with that reality. Now, there is anyway, if I'm living in a state that is shunting blood to here or to my legs all the time, that's what they call chronic stress. It's going to be low on blood up here all the time. And all of this energy for fight or flight is not being expended. So finally, when we start to heal, when the body begins to feel safe again, when it begins to relax and realize this does not have to be a chronic way of living, blood will begin flowing back to this part here. And okay, so you've never been to school. Maybe graduated high school, maybe didn't. Guess what? That doesn't mean you're not, it doesn't mean you can't have a high level of cognition. Learning comes from admitting you don't know something and then educating yourself on it. I mean, and there's a lot of free places to learn things because you get to now and part of that, if you saw the last video, remember these? Yeah, you started exercising your brain around these because you got not necessarily the image, and she created these mostly for kids, but what kid's going to notice that a Volkswagen Bug is trying to pull up a big trailer? Yeah. Which kid understands that? The Volkswagens, they don't even have a trailer hitch on them unless you attach it yourself for something really, really, really lightweight. Anyway, the brain started expanding when you started to add these words to a new neural network, and you've been doing this now since, and so you've got this new network that's built up. That's all part of cognition. You can learn something new. So for me to be able to pick up Porges's polyvagal theory or Robert Dr. Scare's The Body Bears the Burden, also another academic book. Paperbacks, well, you can get Porges's in paperback, but it was a hardcover and it's academic. The Master and His Emissary by E.A. McGilchrist is written a lot like Porges's book, even though I think it's got a different flavor to it, but I can follow it. Back when I started to tackle Porges's The Polyvagal Theory, couldn't tackle that one. I can now. And that's only because I've learned this muscle has been exercised. I'm learning what it means to ask not only better questions, but a more beautiful question. Title of a book, and it's a great book by Daniel Levitin, I think. And part of, I make statements, and I'll say right now that all the statements that I make should be framed as questions, because I'm not the end all, I'm not the be all, and there's always, always, always something new to learn. Now, sure, I can learn about the cell danger response and cell rust and all the rest of these other things that supposedly can affect trauma, but guess what? I don't need to. Those are all autonomic functions of the body. If I will give the body what it wants with its evolutionary process that has been built in, if I will give it that, it will take care of all these autonomic things all by themselves. That's a wonderful thing. I can learn about those things, though. And it's fascinating to learn about them, that this is what the body does down to a cellular level. It's crazy. It's wonderful. So some of these books, now I've got a history collection over here because I love history. And a lot of this over here is stuff that's relative to my trauma and trauma healing. As the blood begins to flow, because the body begins to feel safe, your cognition is going to come online. You can, if you want to, train that. All right, it feels great. And this is where I would go back to my definition, because resting in the unknown is tricky. I don't have to have an answer for that. Just like the universe. You watch a little bit of Brian Cox short little videos or something, and it's amazing. He's an astrophysicist that's just, I love listening to him because he has a hope, but he will probably be the first to say that we haven't found any evidence of life anywhere, despite how huge, and when he describes how huge it is, you get a sense of how huge that is. It's huge. And we only see a little sliver of it. It's just like, oh, Ay, ay, ay. Unbelievable. Resting in that unknown is okay because the only constant is change. Everything's going to change. So, this ability, this resilience that we develop as we heal, and the brain started getting involved now. And now I'm starting to bring the prefrontal stuff online, and some of these other networks of the brain regions are starting to reactivate. Is that I can ask questions based on listening because I'm listening better. I'm listening to them. I'm not listening to my own. I'm not, I might just choose to just shut up and listen. Oh, okay. Because you're listening for assumptions, and yeah, that's part of the deconstruction process later. It's amazing what things are assumed and taken for granted. And when you start listening to somebody, you can start to hear emotion. Okay. Yeah, yeah. So having these abilities, people who didn't used to make plans, not only for their lives, but for their finances, the rest of that stuff, okay, now they're starting to do these kind of things. Ooh. Your ability to learn quickly enhances because the brain can see things, it can see patterns, it can see connected dots or things it might, and maybe you do, and you think, oh, these two connect. Do they? You have to make sure of that. So, okay, I have two dots that are connecting. Where's third, fourth, fifth, and sixth that begin to put a picture together? Cool. That means that this puppy is starting to fire on more cylinders than not. And if you can start seeing assumptions in these, your own assumptions in these dots connecting, okay, cool. That's a good sign. That's your ability then to not get hung up on things, your own being right. Nothing will kill cognitive awareness quicker and more thoroughly than being right. Guaranteed. I've been in those shoes way too often. And you know what? Life isn't black and white. It's just not. Well, look behind me. What do you see? Do you see a black and white maple tree? Oh, no. Look at the books behind me. What do you see besides weird angles, which I kind of do on purpose a little bit, but you see color. You ever wonder why they do that? So if I look out this way, I can see that that tree, which just leaved, now has red leaves in it. So that must be after they're leaving. So there's green leaves, and some of the greens are starting to show some reds and browns, like they're kind of decaying past their prime. I see color. I see green, green, green. All of these different shades of green, 4, 5, or 6 of them. And then I see browns and grays and whites and out that way, different animal. It's just that maple tree hanging there. Birds, okay. Anyway, I think you get my point. You're starting to observe and be aware more as this begins to wake up and be online. And now that you've done this emotional work behind it, think what it's like when those two marry together. Oh, it is a sweet thing. It is a sweet, sweet thing. So I leave you with that. I hope you have a great day. If you have any questions, Lecky Harrison at raiseyourresilience.com. Be more than happy to answer your questions and start this conversation around these kind of things because these have been my experiences. All the definitions on my website are based on my experiences since I started healing. None of them were a reality prior. Have yourselves a great day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.